the bold, the brave, the beautiful. They turned their problems into prospects, crying into creation, pain into purposes, trials into triumph. Your show every Saturday, 7 p.m. Central African Time. Tune in and be blessed. Brought to you by Shunem K.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button. My dear beloved friends, I am very excited today that you have decided to join us for this show of the bold, the brave, and the beautiful. Today, we have not crossed the borders into South Africa or USA. We are right here in the beautiful country of Zimbabwe. And we have been joined by our sister, Dr. Penelope Goromonzi, Mrs. Manungo. And in a very special way, she represents part of those that are bold and brave and beautiful. You may be pleased to know why she is like that. Sit back, relax, and hear why she is part of the bold, the brave, and the beautiful. Dr. Penny, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pastor, for having me.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. People would love to know who is this bold, brave, and beautiful lady that is talking to us. Kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Pastor. So my name, like you said, is Penelope Goromonzi. I am 35 years old and I'm married. So I'm also called Mrs. Manungo. I am married to a handsome, loving, caring husband called Oswald Ajaya Manungo. We got married in 2014 and the Lord has blessed us with two beautiful children. Our first child was given to us by God through adoption, and our second child is biological. So we have got two different children who came to us in two special ways. Thank you for having me today and for providing a platform where we can discuss about adoption in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doc, for really availing yourself to talk about this very important topic. Before we get into the topic of the day, you are a medical doctor. You have come in contact with issues of infertility. Just appraise us with a few of those details.
Thank you so much, Pastor. So as a doctor, I often meet couples that are battling with infertility. You know, when people get married, they look forward to having children. And when that does not happen, it really causes so much frustration and worry among couples. So we describe infertility as failure to conceive after a year of regular intercourse. And what do I mean by regular intercourse? I mean having sex 2 to 3 times a week. So after a year of trying to conceive, we say that a couple is facing infertility or subfertility, if I may say. But then also some doctors prefer using 2 years, after 2 years. But then we sort of advise couples to say after a year of trying, then you can start visiting the doctors and maybe they may start doing investigations. So basically that's infertility. And in our culture, usually what I've noticed is that the woman is always blamed if this happens. And so you find that people that come into the consultation room are the women. They come and say, doctor, I'm failing to conceive. And I always ask, where is the husband? Because infertility can be as a result of male factors. It could be the woman, it could be the man, or it could be a combination of both. So, unlike what our culture says, I'm here to say that it can affect anyone. So both parties should come for investigation. I think that's the take-home message.
Thank you very much. Your medical practice has actually shown that you are cognizant not only of the medical issues, but there are social issues that you are inculcating there into the medical practice. And this really makes allow me to say, your ministry powerful, because you are aiding people to reframe, to reconstruct the way they look at infertility issues. This must be coming from a place that I really want to understand. If I heard you correctly, you said you have 2 children, and one is an adopted child, and the other one is a biological child. Share with us the story of this adopted child.
Okay, thank you, Pastor. So like I said earlier on, we got married we had our wedding in 2014 on October the 5th. And so when we got married, we decided that we were not going to have kids right away. Why? Because I just felt that I wasn't ready. I don't know, but I just felt I was not ready. And actually before, during when we were courting, I had read this book that had encouraged couples to sort of delay having children. And the reason was that the couple has to get to know each other without the interruption of a third party. So it's something really that I took seriously, and I really felt that I was not ready to have a child, and I discussed with my husband, who really understood. So we decided that we were not going to have children right away, and that was in 2014. Now, come in 2017, I had actually relocated from a particular town to another town, and at that point in time, that was around, 3 years later, I felt the need now we felt, sorry, I should say, the need to try. And that was around maybe mid 2017. But then the problem was that we were living in 2 separate towns. I was working in another town, and he was working in another town. So, it was really difficult to time and also it was really difficult to really say we are going to meet on the days that we call fertile days. But well, we hadn't tried a lot, so we started maybe mid 2017. We started trying for a baby, but then came December, and then it came December that year, and then January, maybe I would say 6 months later, that's when a baby who was abandoned was brought to our hospital. So remember, when we first started talking about infertility, I said it's after a year of trying. So we were just 6 months into trying, and we were living in different towns. So there was no issue of infertility at all at that particular point in time. So 6 months later, that was in January, a baby was abandoned in the town that I worked in. And what they do when a baby is abandoned, they bring the baby to a local hospital just for safekeeping in transit. The baby would be waiting to go to a nearby home. That's what usually happens in Zimbabwe. And so this is what happened with this baby. So this baby was brought to our hospital for safekeeping. So, Pastor, before I met this baby, we never planned to adopt a child. We had never talked about adoption before, even if we never even highlighted it as an option if ever we had failed to have children. I had little knowledge about adoption. I know the adoption stories that I had known at that particular point are the adoption stories that I used to see on YouTube and Facebook, and I'll just say, wow, whites are very loving people. Then I'll just pass. It's not something that I really studied on or I really followed about. It's not something that had ever it's not something that I had ever thought in my mind. So at that particular point in time, when I met the baby, I had never thought of adoption. So I still remember the first time that I met this baby. I was doing my white round with the sister. And then when we reached to where the baby was, the sister explained to me the story and really touched my heart. But then, and the sister actually made a remark and said, "Doctor, can you take the baby?" Then I said, no, the baby was a boy. I have so much love for baby girls. So I actually told the sister that, no, I like baby girls. And then actually continued with the word round. So it so happened that the nearby children's home that the child was supposed to go was full. So the baby spent a lot of time at the hospital with us. So when I was continually doing the word round, I just took an interest to just hold the baby, feed them. And, as the day progressed, something just said, you have a big home. Surely you can give this child a place to stay. And it kept on bugging my mind. And what happened is that I sent a message to my husband via WhatsApp. I didn't even call. I told my husband that, Oswald, there's a baby that has been abandoned here. And I just feel like we should take the baby. And you know what my husband said? He said, "Have you contacted the social worker?" And then I say to him, would you like to adopt a baby? And he said, "Why not? No problem." And that was it.
Oh.
The next thing, I then contacted the social worker who explained about adoption and fostering, and they actually told me that if you wanted to have the baby at home quickly, we should start with fostering. And so we actually processed the paperwork for fostering. But before we took him, I sort of developed cold feet. Remember, it's something that we hadn't planned.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen any couples who had adopted. Mm-hmm. So I started wondering if I could love this child as my own. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to a friend who had told me that he had relatives that had adopted, and I begged him to sort of ask the relatives to let me talk to them, and I really wanted to hear or to hear what their experience was on adoption. But adoption in Zimbabwe, people do it anonymously. They don't want to be known. I don't know, there's so much stigma that is surrounded with the subject. And I'm sure she didn't get back to me, so I'm just sure the relatives were not comfortable. But then what I did is that I prayed to God. I said to God, "You are the one who impressed me, who impressed on my heart to take this child. May you please give me the love, all the love that is necessary to raise this child." And remember also, when we decided to adopt, it's not because we had first infertility. Of course, I didn't know how I was at that time, but we had not first infertility as a problem. So I had that faith that one day the Lord would bless me with a biological child. So I asked God that, if ever you bless me with a biological child, I don't want the love that I have for this child to change. And after that, we continued with the process. We applied for fostering, and then we applied for fostering. We took the baby home. Remember, we just became instant parents. It's something that we had not planned. So at that particular point, we went to South Africa. We were so happy. My husband and I went to South Africa. We were not prepared to take the plane because it's something that we did not prepare. So we went by bus. We bought all the necessary baby things from 0 to 1 year. It was the most enjoyable experience. And then we came back, and then soon after that, we then applied for adoption. You know, adoption is a process. It's not a one-day event. And then, but finally, the adoption was finalized a year later on the 23rd of May 2019. That's when the adoption was finalized. And on that same day, that's when I delivered our biological child. In the morning, we went to court to finalize adoption, and in the evening, that's when I met my biological child. And so to me, it was a sign from God. Wow. So that's how our adoption story went.
Wow. What a beautiful story. What a beautiful story. And I want to take this time just to pause and give a round of applause to you for this bold decision, this brave decision, and this beautiful heart that really leaped out to pick this helpless little boy. And also, I will go further to Oswald and say, amen, you did something that most men would not ordinarily do. I'm thinking it must have been a meeting, face-to-face meeting, but here it was just a WhatsApp message. And it must be God who impressed it in your husband's heart to say, this is the right thing. And it must be God who spoke to you to say, this is the right thing. And it is God who spoke to the sister saying, Doc, you can pick this child. This child is okay. And here today we are talking about the issue of adoption because of just that incident when God impressed it upon the sister to say, why not? Why not? And so allow me to just give you people a round of applause for what you have done. Thank you very much for being so kind and being so bold, so brave, and beautiful.
Thank you, Pastor. We thank God.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, adoption is a journey, right? It must be a journey. Tell me what was going on in your mind as you were going through the process of accepting this child. You have shared the joy that you had, but maybe briefly share with us the journey, maybe on the legal side, what was taking place on the legal side, so that somebody who is listening, who may be Zimbabwean, may understand the process and how it goes, so that they may also be in a place where they can do this kind of a thing.
Okay, thank you, Pastor. So what we did, we started by fostering. Remember, we wanted to take the child as soon as possible. So like I said, adoption is a process. It's not a one-day event. So the quicker way was to start by fostering. So when you are fostering, you are taking care of your child. The child remains a child of the state. They keep their surname. Remember, when they keep their name and surname which they are given. by a social worker. So when they are abandoned, the social worker assigns a name to the child and the surname. And so when you're fostering, you don't change their name. You just apply for fostering and you're granted to foster, but the child remains a child of the state. It is the state that makes decisions for the child. You are only there to just take care of them. So that's what we started by doing. We started fostering him, but as soon as we had him at home, we started the adoption process. So it was a bit unfortunate that I did not know anything about adoption. So I was just following what the social worker had told me. But the process is that you apply to the social worker that you want to adopt a child. The social worker will help you. You will apply for adoption, and you will state the type of child that you prefer. Is it a boy or a girl? And you also state the age that you prefer. Do you want an infant? Do you want a 2-month-old? Do you want a 3-year-old? Whatever that suits you. And then now after that, you are required to bring in if you're married, your marriage certificate. And when it comes to people that are married, they want people that have been married for at least 2 years. And you bring in your marriage certificate, your IDs, all your particulars, and also they want you to go for vetting at the police so that they make sure that you have not been convicted of any serious crime. And then now the social worker will process the application, and then they will do some home visits to make sure that what you're saying is true. They will interview people that are close to you to make sure that you are telling the truth and that you are ready to have a baby. So it's really quite a vigorous process. They are thorough. It takes time. It may take time. And then after that, they match you with a child, and then after they make you with a child, then they apply to the magistrate, and then you go before the magistrate and you make an order. So it could actually take time. The process can actually take time because they can be quite thorough. But in our case, it was different because we saw the child first. It doesn't usually happen that way for people that are really planning to adopt. They have to approach the social service in their particular province or district, and the social worker will help them with the process.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And now if you're listening and you are thinking adoption, and we are grateful to have this education that really inspires us and helps us to know what to do exactly in this process. Doc, I'm wondering, what cultural issues did you have to deal with as far as the adoption process is concerned, as far as adoption is concerned?
Thank you, Pastor. That's a very important and good question. So what you have to realize is that adoption in our culture, in the African context, is not readily acceptable among individuals. And so remember, when you're adopting a child, you want to bring a child into a family. You want the child to have an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather, a grandmother. So you want the people that are close to you to accept that child. So in our case, what we did is, when we decided to adopt, remember, this was our decision, and this was something that was being impressed on us by God. So we were really convinced that it's something that we wanted to do. But then we also noted that it was very important to inform others and to have others accept him, because we were bringing him into a family. And what's tragic if you bring a child and when they are growing up, your family members do not accept the child, you cause more harm to the child. So we really wanted people to be on our side. So I'm actually happy to say we come from a Christian family. My husband's side, they've got a strong Adventist background. From my side, it's a mixture. But then, so most of the people that are close to us, because we decided that we were going to inform those that were within our circle, those that were close to us. So I'm happy to say when we informed them, they were actually quite supportive and happy. But then there were others who were not comfortable with the idea of adoption. So in our culture, what happens is that most people think that when you adopt a child and you bring, this is a stranger that you're bringing into your family, you've got a different blood. So what happens is that the ancestors may not be happy with the move that you would have undertaken, and what will they do? They will punish you. So you will, I don't know, should I call it a bad omen? You'll be inviting trouble into your life. So whatever that maybe you'll be trying to do won't go well, because the ancestors of the child are not happy. Another thinking is that the child may misbehave because the child's ancestors are not happy. So you might find problems with the child because they'll be misbehaving. Another element in our culture is that maybe the child will fall sick, and if ever that child falls sick, it is attributed to the ancestors that are not happy. So if anything bad happens to the child, it's the ancestors that are not happy. This is what our culture thinks. And also, some feel that maybe one day the child dies, and you will have to bury a stranger in your compound, in your home. That will bring misfortunes to the family. And so some people actually thought that adoption was not a good thing because of these factors that I was talking about. And what really surprised me is that it's not the Pentecostals that had this feeling. It's actually the Adventists. So I was actually surprised, because when I became an Adventist, one of the doctrines that really touched my heart was, and that was really explained to me, and that was proven by scripture, was that the dead know nothing. I became an orphan at an early age, and when I went to Nyazura Adventist High School, I was not an Adventist, and I was really grieving. I was still grieving for my parents. I really wanted to know where they had gone. And when this doctrine was really explained to me, it really got to me, and it got to my heart. It's something that I really believed in. And so to me, that was not even when we decided to adopt, it's something that we never thought of. It's something that that never came to our mind, something that we didn't even believe in, and we still don't believe in. So it really surprised me that this was coming from people that were Adventists, but well, that is what happened. So, but like I said, most people were supportive. So I really needed only those people that were supportive for us to go ahead with the decision that we had made. And I'm also happy to say, of the people that were not really supportive, after we had adopted our little child, those are the people that love him to the core. Babies have a way of stealing people's hearts. Those are the ones that love him to the core. So I'm happy that even those that were not comfortable with the ideas, with the idea of adoption, actually were stolen after we adopted our little boy. So, so this issue of culture in Zimbabwe and in Africa is really serious, because you will find that in Zimbabwe, the rate of adopting children is so low, and this is because of the cultural issues that I highlighted. Adoption is on the lowish side because of cultural reasons.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I see the impact of culture here. It is so powerful that it even affected those who say they are Bible-believing Christians, and they are standing on principles of the Bible that say the dead know nothing, to an extent that they are barring people from really doing that which is in their heart's desire. And I want to pause and say to somebody out there, it is very important, it is very critical to really understand that when you are adopting someone, you are doing that which Abraham did. He didn't have no child, but he had so many servants and so many people who were fostered in his home. The term may not be used in the Bible as adoption, but so many people who were part of the family of Abraham were adopted people. He actually even said, "Isn't this Eliezer, my son, the adopted son that I have?" So it is very important to really step out there and really ignore some of these cultural connotations that are there. When your heart is ready to adopt, you can go for it. The issues of ancestors can even come when you have not adopted. So the ancestral issues are not stopped by adoption. They are not brought by adoption. They can come if you believe in them. If you don't believe in them, they don't come. If you do believe in them, that is what will happen. So the issue here is about having your faith. Allow me to ask you to think like somebody who is struggling to have a child. And then somebody comes and says, "I think you have a lack of faith." Okay, I'm taking you in an imaginary lane, and you are as somebody who is struggling to have a child, struggling with infertility, and this person has really adopted. Okay, and then somebody says, "You lack faith." How would you respond to such a question? That adoption is a lack of faith. Why not wait on God?
Okay, thank you, Pastor. So that's a very important element, because there are actually people who are facing infertility, but they actually are thinking that maybe adoption is a sign. If they think of adoption, it is a sign of lack of faith. So what I have to say is that what we have to understand, what we really have to understand, is something that I actually understood after I adopted Tanzika. Remember, we just became instant parents. We did not plan to adopt. So actually got to understand this concept later on when I was interacting with other adoptive families, and when I was learning more about adoption. Adoption is actually one of the ways that God makes up families. It's not a shameful way. It's actually one of another way that God can make up families. God can choose to make a family by adoption, or by natural conception, or by both. So to those people that have this idea in their head that it's lack of faith, I am saying to them, it's actually another beautiful way that the Lord can make up your family. It's another beautiful way that you can just open up. And if ever that thought comes into your mind, it is God that is impressing on your heart to take that child. Like you have said, Pastor, earlier on, adoption was there in the Bible. It's just that it was not really maybe termed adoption, but then it was there. Let's look at that story of Moses. What happened? Pharaoh's sister took Moses, and it was the plan of God to preserve who? To preserve Moses' life. And also that story of Jesus. Joseph, we remember that when Mary became pregnant before, he had any sexual relation with Joseph. And actually Joseph was thinking of leaving Mary, but the Holy Spirit said, no, don't do that. So what happened? Joseph became an adoptive father, but that was very important in the plan of what? In the plan of salvation. So adoption is another way that God makes families, and it's biblical, and it's not a lack of faith. And the other thing that we also have to learn is that it should not be a last option when we have failed maybe to have kids, but it should be an option for us to extend our hand to the fatherless and the motherless. And so I would say to that couple that is thinking of adopting, that couple that is facing infertility, maybe it is the Lord that wants you to see that families can be formed in another beautiful way, and that way is also fulfilling. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that response. Doc, I don't know what words you can share with somebody that is in the valley and they are depressed and they are discouraged because this journey has been very difficult. And maybe the husband is not like Oswald, or maybe the wife is not like Doc Goromonzi. Maybe one party is saying yes and maybe one party is saying no, and maybe there is that struggle. What words of encouragement can you give to somebody who is in this situation?
Okay, so thank you, Pastor. So with adoption, it needs both members of the family or the couple to be in for it. That is the problem with adoption. And so sometimes you find that, especially in our African context, it is the woman that wants to adopt. But the men, wow, you know, like what I highlighted earlier on, the cultural aspects of this. And also in addition, sometimes the male or the husband feels that maybe they have failed. You know how it is in our African context. When you're not having children, people will be saying, what's wrong? Are you not really? You know, it's like the husband is failing to do something. I'm failing to find the right ways to describe what I want to say. But some husbands feel like it's sort of it's failure on their part if they decide to say, let us adopt and raise another man's child. In the African culture, it's looked down upon. So you find that most men are not for this idea. But then I would want to say to people or to couples that are in such a situation that they should just open their hearts and listen to what the Lord has to say. And in addition, I would say God is love. If you just allow him and if you surrender your will, he will provide you with all the love and all the care that you will need to give to that child. And it is a fulfilling role to adopt a child. It is fulfilling, just like raising a biological child, raising your child whom you have adopted is fulfilling. And I think it can be more fulfilling because you see the Lord being at work. Just a mere person like me and you, entrusted with the life of a child that they did not bear in their womb, and feeding them, giving them the love and seeing them grow, it's so fulfilling. So I'll just encourage couples that are in the valley of decision to say, just pray earnestly to God, and the Lord will show you the direction to take.
Thank you very much for that encouragement. I don't know how to ask this question. I want to ask, as a parent that has a biological child and a parent who has an adopted child, are there moments when you cannot balance the love between the two? And if so, how do you deal with that temptation that comes with that?
Okay, thank you, Pastor. That's a difficult question, but maybe I should answer you in this way. You know, when I look at my children at this point in time, I don't see, or I don't say, this is my biological child, this is my adopted child. I just see them as my children. And as their parent, I have an obligation to love equally, to support them equally. And like I said, Pastor, before I adopted our little boy, I prayed to God. I prayed earnestly to God, and I asked God to give me love that was equal if ever I had a biological child. And like I said, if you surrender your will to God, He will fill your heart with love. I love my children both to the core. I don't even see what is biological and what is not biological. Actually, recently, maybe I should illustrate or give you an example of what happened recently. My son, who is my adopted son, actually developed, became sick. He developed a respiratory distress. And then when I went with him to see the pediatrician, we were not sure what was happening, because he was suspecting two things, inhalation or aspiration of a foreign body. And so we took him to theater, and they could not find the foreign body. And so we were so in a valley of not knowing what's really happening to the, what is it, a foreign body that was not found in theater? Is this an infection? What happened? And I remember that night I was so stressed because I really didn't know what was happening with my child. And the question that came to my mind was if it was a foreign body and we failed to locate the foreign body in time, what if my child deteriorates? You know, I really cried, Pastor, that night. I cried. I prayed to God. I cried. I still remember calling my friend, my best friend who is in America, and telling her that our little son is sick and I don't understand what's happening. What if we are late in finding what's happening with him? And that time he was in distress, and I was asking God, why would you give me a child and then take that child away from me? So, you know, Pastor, this happened to me, and this is my adopted child. So sometimes I can't explain to you where this love comes from, but what I can say is that the Lord is faithful, and He will give you enough love to love that child. And like I said, remember, this is a child that I took when he was about a month old, and bonds that we formed, I cannot tell which is biological and which is adopted. So I think I have done my best to answer you.
What a bond that is indescribable, a bond that is not physical, but a bond that transcends the physical and becomes spiritual, emotional, and psychological. This is a bond that Dr. Goromonzi has had with her son, and we are grateful to know that such a bond can be formed anywhere with anyone, and it takes that heart to be melted and to be connected to this child. What a testimony we have had today, and we are grateful that you have spent some time to listen to this story. And I want to take this time to thank our very important guest, who is so bold, brave, and beautiful to be our guest today and talk to us about this matter of adoption. Please do join us next week for yet another powerful story of the bold, the brave, and the beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Goromonzi, for spending time with us, and we are grateful that you were with us today.
Brought to you by Shunem K.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button.